Blog Talk Radio.
Before I leave, you know what I'm saying? That what we were thinking was God was the devil. You know what I'm saying? The devil has been controlling our lives all the time, making wars. Yeah, right in the Bible, man. Let me just find something here. This is a Bible. Oh, you got this is for a functioning lyric. You got this is like McDonald's cash register. You know about McDonald's cash register, right? I mean, it's supposed to work where they got pictures on their feet. Kind of insulting.
Recording this blog today. Just
Matthew 24.
What's going on right now. This is my personal thoughts.
And Jesus went out and departed from the temple.
The child, as far as I'm concerned, that was thrown around
for to show him the building of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, see not all these things. Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be torn down. Why not? Why must the temple come down? You're missing that part when you read the Bible. You're interested in the prophecy, you're interested in the story, and you're not starting to say, this is God he's talking to. Why? You know, God, don't let the devil come down, okay? But people, why just leave it there? Why? Okay, wait. I don't know. I hope you're with me. It says, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Jesus has got a private conversation with him. Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?
Together once again because
So
as people, as a species, as humanity on this planet, we are currently on a path that has led us all to the threshold of extremely perilous times.
You're not conscious of the presence of God. You're afraid of that reality, but with that reality comes responsibility that you don't want.
And Jesus answered and said unto
without human consciousness, there is no world.
Fear is a crime, my thoughts make the pyramid shine. We the guards at the back, not a theory of mine. The devil exposed, chapter in forever is closed. You forgot who you are, but your melanin knows. Heal yourself with your thoughts, let the medicine go. The dream merchant keep you purchasing lies that keep you working. Searching for the magic of wealth, Greek serpents. I never said that I rap, I speak sermons. About to show the Wizard of Oz, predict the curtain. Taking stole our DNA from my seeds, burst them, church them, and take your manhood. That's how they church men. Before we fought Africans, touch Mars, the back again. Rulers back, I put my gun down and use math to win. I made a decision away from the system to take the division. So they can take it as a living, got your name resistant. Women thinking they a man, get their paper submission. Food shopping at McDonald's, stay away from their kitchen. Chaos to their children, yet they don't listen. I came from an ancient dimension, we gave an extension to Yaku, got you with faith and religion. Do what you lie, accept it for the sake of tradition. In the depths of your soul, with the Savior's in prison, I break the inscription and code it in the glacier was written. Now listen to the way there, old without a gray hair. I know when I reach my last breath, I make it rain air. Hell is the state you go through, you shouldn't stay there. Never still deceiving you now, you think you play fair? I do the impossible, move super logical, move obstacles with no hands, sit like Costa Zoo. In the dark light of the sky, just like comets do. My left bell will never return, I'm too conscious to.
Conscious human beings in this world. We bring the world into being through our consciousness.
Why is it so my wife we know it? And the beastie said down to the angels that's what you seek. That you are the God we seek. You are the heaven you come to. You are the salvation that you await and pray for so desperately.
I am found by way to personal salvation.
They wouldn't be able to if you was listening, Bob. Hear me? He says, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So the Christians have read this chapter and said, Jesus, there will be many people saying they're Christ. That's not what it says. It says, many are going to come in his name saying he is Christ. They're going to pronounce Jesus as Christ. That's who we got to watch out for. Not some fool like Yahweh and Yahweh saying, I'm Christ. It ain't really long before we figure out he ain't Christ. We got to watch the people that are pointing the finger at other people and saying, behold Christ. Because it says,
Peace, and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio, episode 44. We got our warrior comrade coming on, Brother Ali York, son of Dr. York. Don't forget, family, if you want to call in, that phone number to call in is 713-955-0707. Again, that's 713-955-0707. Press 1, and you'll be placed in the host queue. This is a Revolutionary Sunday episode. We're honored to have our comrade come on and, give us a history lesson, show us some love. So without any further ado, I see the brother is on. We're going to go to the phone lines and present one of many times of our brother coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, present Brother Ali York.
What's up, family? How you doing?
Roll back.
Yeah.
Good to have. There was some issues with the audio earlier. It was playing like more than one thing at one time.
Oh, okay. I noticed. Yeah. Yeah, it's all right.
I call it Too Black for Blog Talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It happens sometimes. I know how it feels. Yeah.
So for the family who may not be familiar with you, with your work and with the work of your father, I give you opportunity. You take as long as you need to give an introduction of yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm, the son of Dr. York, blood related, not, just spiritual or anything like that, because there's a lot of people that, that's my father, but that's, through organization purposes and whatnot. That's my blood father. So I've known him since, personally since I was 15 years old. Of course, growing up, I grew up in Queens, and then came to Houston, Texas when I was about 10 or 11. And my mom, she, of course, through the Asaru law community back in the late 70s, early 80s. So at that time, it was called the Asaru law community. This was after making a transition from just being called Nubian Islamic Hebrews. And this was like I said, late 70s, early 80s. So I was able to meet him when I was 15, Savior's Day of 95. I was about 14, Savior's Day 95. And my father would have like this annual basketball tournament. And I was able to, to participate in that on the land. This before the pyramids. This is even before the pyramids was even built there. Or any monuments for that matter, whatever. And we was just talking, be able to, it's like the first time you meet your hero, basically. And the person's responsible for you being here. And after that, 3 years later, coming into wu-nuwaupu, knowledge of self and everything, I didn't just see him as just my father. I saw him as, of course, the master teacher. So it was a whole different feeling for me, to see him as someone who was like a person that wrote so many books and every subject you can think of. So that was just the next level there for me. And so since then, since I was 18, I've been basically teaching and was able to be mentored by brothers from the Triad, the Harder Hotep, the Kantu Hotep, and the Mental Hotep, and being able to be under them and learn from them, and also learn little bits and pieces from my father because he was busy writing books, so I didn't really have that much time to just build with him, but the little time I did have, I was able to learn whatever I could. So since 18, 19, I've been, teaching and consistent. I've been teaching since 2006, and it's 10 years I've been really doing it and just staying strong and just teaching whatever facts. That's why I have a conference call class I do every Wednesday night. That's called Science of wu-nuwaupu, and it's based upon the science as opposed to just dealing with specific books. I deal with the books as well, but I see it from, as he said, the science of wu-nuwaupu was the science of sound right reasoning. I deal with facts, and I dealing with all forms of what wu-nuwaupu stands for, which is everything that's under the sun and everything that we need to know about what's going on in the world. So that's me, and that's where I stand at this point.
So how important would you say the study of wu-nuwaupu or the science of wu-nuwaupu, sound right reasoning, would be for this day and time?
It's extremely important because the problem is a lot of people will come with what they will call scholarship, and they don't have a foundation under that scholarship. And the thing with wu-nuwaupu is that it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It would dispel whatever you think you already know, meaning that it forces you to go inside of what you think you know and decipher it for the facts, meaning that you have to get rid of whatever misconceptions that you thought you knew about whatever doctrine that you are adhering to. So when you take on the science of wu-nuwaupu, it's only dealing with what is truth, what is factual. You have to go through the facts test, which is we know as experience, evidence, and reasoning. And most people cannot go through the experience test because, again, you may not be able to experience. Some people will never be able to go to see the pyramids of ancient Kemet, the three pyramids at Giza, but they know they're there because of other people's experiences and what still stands there to this day. And that's factual to them because the evidence is there. Because other people have already explained to you and explained to everyone else, this is what's there. This is what us as people who were there as Africans at the time of 17 million years have been able to do. So when you deal with wu-nuwaupu as a science, you're dealing with something that just deals with facts. Don't bring anything to me unless you have accepted it to know it to be a fact for yourself. If you can't give me verified sources on something, leave it alone. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's the thing with a lot of people who may be wu-nuwaupian. Like they'll bring something, let's say, for example, the concept of the Ashtar command. It immediately sounds far-fetched. The story of Yaqub, it immediately sounds far-fetched until you could bring evidence to that. That brings it to no longer be belief, but it can be factual. And that's the problem. I can tell you something about how deep something is, about how great this situation was, but if you're not giving me facts to verify what you're saying, then there's no point in even talking about it. And there's people all over the place that's coming with all types of information. Until I ask you, can you verify the source of what you're saying? It's a waste of time. And it's irrelevant. Problem that we're having is that people will automatically assume that wu-nuwaupu was just a set of books, and that is what will make it into a religion. It will be no different in any other religion, and that's not what wu-nuwaupu is. You have information that he teaches, of course, but at the same time, that information can be verified through the facts test. So that will no longer just make it into a religion. It would make it just that, facts. And you have to take that same science to wherever you are in life. Meaning that, for example, if I ask someone, just like in mathematics, what is a square root of wu-nuwaupu? The square root of wu-nuwaupu is what? To question everything. Because that's the foundation of it. You have to question everything. And if you can't verify whatever you're coming at anybody with, it's not wu-nuwaupu, it's a religion. And that's where it would trump, or that science would trump everything else, because you're giving a person a foundation that, let's say, for us as black people, in America, we've been dealing with lies for 500 years in our time as being in bondage in this society. And someone comes along and tells you to push away everything that you've been taught by your slave master and say, no, the way you break this spell is you deal with only facts. And you take that same science and you deal with that on every part of your life. And that same science is going to take you to the next level within yourself. As we all know, we're learning the science of the pineal gland to this day. And the reality is that we're learning it now, it seems, as if the same way or the same time as a Caucasian is learning it. But that pineal gland is still connected to the hippocampus area of the brain, which is the four highest senses, of course, telepathy, intuition, psychometry, you understand, and, clairvoyance. And when you deal with wu-nuwaupu, it's supposed to take you to the next level where you're able to open your third eye so that you can receive the information that you need yourself. Because everything that we're learning now is nothing but a remembrance of what we once had before as God. And if you can't get that through your mind, anything that you encounter will feel like it's new. But it's nothing but a remembrance. Nothing but a remembrance. So wu-nuwaupu, the whole point of it is to get us to travel back within to become God all over again. The reality is that that's what we're losing that time trying to prove ourselves to Caucasians, when in reality, Caucasians took our information and they perverted it and created religion. But in reality, wu-nuwaupu is taking you back to the point where before there was any religion, before there was any faith or belief, you knew who you were as God. We had facts, and that's knowledge. You understand? So that's what we're getting with using the science of wu-nuwaupu, is getting back to being God again. No longer in speculation of who you are, no longer borrowing somebody's information that was stolen from you in the first place, is dealing with facts without a shadow of a doubt, regardless of what's being taught in the books. And even my father would say, Dr. York, you have to, at the same time, regardless, even if I'm giving you that information, it has to be verified. If you have not had the experience, do not accept it. And that alleviates the spell from an individual. It alleviates people going out there saying, oh, you believe in space aliens and there's reptilian, this and that. If you never had the experience with a reptilian, don't accept it. The information is for you to have a warning over something that may be harmful to you in case you would encounter it. But if you've never encountered it, then you can't go out and say this is what is real. You never encountered it, then don't teach anybody about something that you've never accepted. That alleviates, again, the misconception of misleading people that's been going on with us for so long. That's why wu-nuwaupu was so pertinent and so needed to this day. It's like, look, this is my science. If you can't bring this to me with any form of facts behind and some verified information, at least it's some type of Area 51 something. Give me some facts behind what you say. If not, I don't want to deal with it. Let's move on from that. And that's what it does. It takes you back to who you were and where you need to be at this day and time.
All right, Pops used to say, I came giving you what you want, so you would learn to want what I had to give. So could you discuss some of the chronology that exists? Because what I see is a lot of detachment between what was originally put down versus what we have right now.
Right. Okay. Well, it starts off back in 1967 when he originally came with wu-nuwaupu. At that time, this is back in, a time where people were still wanting to be Muslim at the time. They were asking a lot of questions about Islam. The way he did things was this. He would take us through a school based upon the questions that were being asked. It wasn't just, okay, let's just go into school just because. There was a reasoning behind it. There was always a rhyme and reason. So when you dealt with 67, people were not, as he said, we're not ready because people were asking questions that had nothing to do with where he was trying to take us. because he was the one to bring in non-ball. He was able to bring in, Bible interpretations and explanations that was deciphering the truth behind the spell book that he would call that was what would be the Bible. And non-ball was to get us what we would call get behind the non-ball to get back into the science of who we are. The science itself is non-ether beings personified in the physical form. But at that time, people were not even wanting to talk about that science at all. They only wanted to talk about religion. They only wanted to talk about the Bible. They only wanted to talk about the Quran. So at that time, we left that. At that time, the people were wearing his, that followed him, because he had a small following at that time. And there was very few people that were around, that's still around to this day, from the brother Otis Wagner that has a book out dealing with vegan cooks and everything. But he, at that time, his known name is Noble Batten. You had a brother named Abiyaya, peace and blessings being upon him. He's been around since, my father was a teenager. And he left that and ended up becoming what we call as pure Sufi. And he was wearing all black, and that was a school of thought as well. And around 1970 was when we became Nubian Islamic Hebrews. And that took at least 5 to 6 years, as I said before, until it became Ansar Allah community. And within those, between the 70s and the 80s, pretty much was translating the scripture from poor translations to the right translations, whether it be the Quran or whether it be the Bible. So we're traveling from the 80s on up into the 90s. 91 was when it became what people know now as a Nubian Nation. And Nubian Nation / Hebrew school, when we was wearing the kimaz, so people want to call the kufi, and we had yarmulkes at that time, and then we moved from Brooklyn, New York, because during the time of pure Sufi in the 60s and 70s, we were living in Coney Island. And then you went from Coney Island into Bushwick Avenue on Bushwick and Hart in Brooklyn. And at some point, he branched out and went into upstate New York. And he had 2 different mosques at that time. But he had mosques all over the world, from Brooklyn to California, Houston, Philly, Boston, and even in UK and parts of Trinidad, even in the Netherlands. So he just moved the headquarters to upstate New York, and he still kept the Bushwick, tab and everything. So when we was Nubian Nation, it was a whole different school of thought. We was transitioning out of Islam and proverbially into right knowledge. And so at that time, we were taking on no longer being called Sudanese. We was using Nubian, because the mindset that he wanted us to get on was that we need, as black people, to have our own stuff. The Sudanese at that time did not want to they didn't want to claim us. After a while, it was like, well, look, if that's the case, start using our own information. Because at a time, the reason why was because as Ansar Allah, they connected with that because we was the Ansar Allah community of America, and they were the Ansars of Sudan. But once he changed and became Nubian Nation, they wanted to disconnect themselves. So he's like, okay, well, look, this is our stuff. We need to start renaming ourselves. We need to start using our own language. And at that time, we left speaking classical Arabic into Nubic. And that was a transition. It was a transitional language to get away from speaking the Hebrew, because we also spoke Hebrew as well, and also Arabic. And because we spoke Hebrew at that time and Arabic, classical Arabic, because he actually flew in different people from Egypt and Sudan to teach the children classical Arabic. So he combined the 2 languages, the classical Arabic combined with the Hebrew, and he created Nubic. He also had a script for that as well. Trial language, until we went into what we're using now, which is the Nawapic language, which came out in 1994-95. And that was a combination of the Arabic, Hebrew, and the Akkadian. And he used several scripts for that. He did that because he wanted us to speed up and have our own language as black people. He has nothing against He had nothing against, at that point, nothing against now, was learning Metanetter. But Metanetter takes years to learn, fluently. But Nuwaupu is a very easy language to pick up on for black people. So he wanted us to learn that a lot quicker. That's why we were using languages that we already knew previously, so for us to know it. So we went from being, the Nubian nation, and going into the Hebrews, and we left that when going into the school of Nuwaupu. A great way to see the transition is if a lot of people can go on YouTube and look up the class Elohim or New Covenant. And New Covenant, both of them talk about the transition into the Elohim, knowing that we were the Elohim, meaning that we were the gods of the planet. And so traveling back to that, translating the language and knowing who are we in the Bible. Genesis 1:1 is not a spook God creating, it is us as God's creating. So 94, 95, jumping back, that's we now known as, we now use our science as Nuwaupu, and we are now known as Nuwaupians. So he's no longer using the name changes also. Back in 67, he was known as wu-nuwaupu. And then you take from 67 to 70, it was Isa Abdullah Muhammad. Each name is a school of thought. That's a big misconception as well. Like he changes names to escape this and escape that. No. Each name was a name change in order to get involved into a school of thought, to get people to evolve in a school of thought. It's just the same thing as in 91, 92, he was known as Rabboni Yeshua, Bar El-Hadi, because we were Hebrews. You can't use an Islamic name in a Hebraic school of thought. It's not going to make any sense. So he took on specific schools of thought, which he was Rabbi Rabboni Yeshua Bar El-Hadi, and he also was an imam. He had those titles. It wasn't just something that he just gave himself. He earned those titles. So each title meant under that school that we were using, that we needed to learn, he used the title in order to have the proper, position in order for us to learn the right way. So in 95, 96, he became known as, of course, Reverend Dr. Malachi Z. York, and we was going through what we know as the Right Knowledge Scrolls, and we was going through also the Supreme Mathematics from A to Z. One of his most famous scrolls at the time was Man Planet Risk, where the whole purpose of that was not to say, oh, I'm from another planet, and this and that. No. Taking on a seat in a thought process in order to get you to learn that there are other beings outside of this realm that we do need to know about. And in the book, he's giving you evidence to show you that there are others that are outside of the Earth's realm. He gives you clippings and evidence within the book, but people took one statement within the book and ran with that to basically say, oh, he's crazy, he thinks from another planet. No, he's taking on a specific school of thought and a specific seat and a name in order to get people to learn something. It's the same thing, regardless of whether it's shamans that use different names, that I'm from such and such planet, I'm from this and that. No, it's not craziness. He's using a specific name to teach us the right way. When he says, I'm a man from Planet Risk, he's like, look, I'm bringing you information that's in and beyond the stars. But people took the information or took that statement literally, and they ran with that to have an excuse to not pay attention to him. But no, when he made that statement, it was to say, no, I'm here to give you information that is going to take you to the other side of the sun as a man from Planet Risk, a whole different galaxy outside of the Earth's realm that we still are learning more and more about. And he gives you evidence within the book. So within the Supreme Mathematics series of Right Knowledge, he's giving you more and more and more information from Mission Earth and extraterrestrial involvement to Shemana Agata, to Dr. versus the Computer, to one of his most famous books, which is 666 Leviathan. And the brother, the rapper from the Prodigy, when he was doing time, he basically, wrote a letter stating after reading this book, it changed his life. And to know during this time that he was changing people's lives is a blessing within itself, to know that a lot of information that he also was putting out in the book 666, that's been revised at least 5 or 6 times since 1970. Because a lot of things that we're going through right now, he had already talked about 40 years ago, 45 years ago, as a matter of fact. The last time that he revised that book was before he was incarcerated in 2002. You understand? And that's something that people need to know, because a lot of this information, other than the brother Steve Coakley, he's one of the few of our people that's been putting out certain information in terms of what the government has been doing to us for years and what they plan on doing with this world. And that's the thing. So let's, just to jump down to late 90s, we go from the sacred order of what's called the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek. And that was a sacred order within the wu-nuwaupu. And you had to go through the initiation process and this and that to learn sacred information. And we go from that into 99 and 2000, and what people would know as the ancient Egyptian order, where in Om, or ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, he takes on the seat of Melchizedek. Melchizedek is a seat. Those that know that there's other orders, order of Melchizedek, where the person up in front, they take on the seat of Melchizedek. You take on the seat of Melchizedek, and you are the Hierophant that teaches the other initiates in that sacred order. So then you go from being of Melchizedek into Tehuti under the ancient Egyptian order as the sacred scribe of the initiates who are coming into the ancient Egyptian order. So he, being who he is, he takes on that seat. So it's years and years and years of teaching us certain information of Islam, Christianity, Judaism. He is still raising himself up in degrees of study in order to teach us the proper way of ancient Kemet and the proper way of the Hebraic schools, because he's able to translate the languages the way we need to know them. And so from 2001 and going to 2002 until, him being kidnapped and being put in prison for something that he did not do, no evidence at all to this day to confirm anything that he's being accused of to this day. So we're going down into where we are now. Of course, we're back into the term, as the brother said, I can't give you what you want, so you learn to want what I had to give. In order to take what he needs to give us, and so we can learn what we had to give, learn to want what he had to give, we had to be able to be weeded out of religion, because that's what we wanted in the beginning. We wanted religion, we wanted Jesus, we wanted Muhammad, we wanted all these things rather than knowing who we were. We were so engulfed in what the devil has given us for years that when it was time to know who we were, that, okay, now that you're done with wanting to be a Freemason, because we also went to Freemasonic school as well, in order to know all that information still came out of ancient Kemet, ancient Tamaray as well. So in order for us to learn to want what he had to give us, we had to know the truth of who God really is throughout the scriptures, and to weed us out the scriptures by using the original language to take us into who we need to be right now, which is just completely dealing with right knowledge completely and pushing away all forms of religion and scriptural thought and plagiarism, and just deal with facts. So we learned to want what he had to give us by dealing with the religion from a head-on standpoint and teaching it and learning it the way we need to know it the right way. And now we're at the point where we're able to make that transformation, and it's a step-by-step process. It's just that everybody has the ability to do it, but some people, as we went through schools of thought, got stuck in different routes, because we also went through the Sumerian school where we were learning about the Anu and the Enlil and the Enki, just to get us away from the Arabic and the Hebrew, where all that came from out of ancient Sumer, which we realized after a while came out of ancient Kemet. So it just took steps and steps and steps because each school of thought is nothing but a step. And once we learn that, then we're able to really, get back to where we need to go. So that's where we are right now.
All right, so what about the Egyptian Church of Christ?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Egyptian Church of Christ was actually, it was a way that people can learn ancient Kemet through using what we would know as the quantity. Because if you study those old the old CDs in Egyptian Church of Christ, those recordings, he was able to incorporate what we would call the Holy Soul. And the Holy Soul, if you remember, Holy Soul was known as Khansu. Khansu was known as the Holy Soul, and in ancient Kemet. Because if you take, going back into what we will call the Coptics, because back in ancient Kemet, when Egypt was beginning to fall, you had a time period was known as the Ptolemy era, and those that were kept by those of the Greeks and the Romans, different priests came up with they were known as the Coptic priests. These were actually black Africans that were kept, and they created something for the Caucasian that was known as the quantity, and they became what's known as the Coptic Christians. That was something for them. That was a playground for them. And the Egyptian Church of Christ consists of what we call the Blessed Mother, which is Asit. You had the Heavenly Father, which is Asaru, and you had the Son, which is Haru. And then, as you know, in Christianity, they deal with the Holy Ghost and the Holy Spirit, which Caucasians don't have a soul. So they deal with spirits and ghosts. Whereas with us as Africans, we deal with the soul because we're the ones that have the soul. Europeans don't have a soul. We are non-ether beings as compared to the Caucasians, which are just 6 ether beings. These are what we call lunar, and we are known as the solar. So the Egyptian Church of Christ was created in order for us to be able to implement back in the Blessed Mother, which is Asit. So it wouldn't just be a trinity; it would be a quantity. You understand? So it wouldn't just be three men, because you're dealing with the Romans, because they went from dealing with the quantity to only dealing with just 3 men. And remember, it was for them. It was Father, Son, Holy Ghost. These three are one, dealing with the Father, Jesus Christ, and then the Spirit, and then they leave out the woman. So it's a homosexual thought in reality, because you cannot have any son and any father without a woman. So when he brought in the Egyptian Church of Christ, he was teaching it from still a right knowledge standpoint, but being able to implement back in the woman and implement back in the soul. So, and then he was, at that time, we were going into the school of being Coptics and learning it from that angle, but still learning it from a right knowledge perspective.
All right, so what about Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle, Maku Yamasi?
All right. Chief Black Eagle, Thunderbird was a school, which is still who he is. It's just a seat. It's just a title that he has, that he falls under. When you dealt with the Native American, not even really information, but the Native American confirmation of him being connected to Ben York. And that was a time, if you go back to the late 90s as well, between 95 to 98, we was known as the United Nuwaupu Nation of Moors. And what also needs to be known, because during that time he also referred people to the book, or to the map, I'm America map. That map he used as a reference point to show how many vortexes was on this planet. And one of the main vortexes was actually on Chief Eagle Mound, or Rock Eagle Mound in Edenton, Georgia. We were sitting on top of that vortex where that land was. He knew exactly where the vortex was at that time. And the information that we were learning, we were being able to get to the realization of what we were sitting on. And also, you have a tape that came out called The Return of the Moors, where he expounds further that there's over 60 different vortexes on this planet. And we were just sitting on one. And there's at least 30 to 40 vortexes all in Africa. And so Chief Eagle Thunderbird was just to give a realization of the people of something that he already knew, of having his Native American ancestry be told to the world, and also show his Moorish ancestry as well. Because of us being connected, one of the main things as well is that I wish people can find a way to get the Black Book 2, because Black Book 2 also expounds on the fact of the connection between the land masses when this planet, when this whole landmass that we're sitting on now was known as a Mexum. North America, South America, even connected to Africa. Some Native Americans also call it Turtle Island. But this was also known as a Mexum as well. So that title, each title again gives us a certain amount of information. And that title was to connect us. That's why it's a book that came out called Let's Set the Record Straight. And in Let's Set the Record Straight, this is all confirmed information, confirmed facts on who the races are on the planet and who's connected to who genetically. And one of the main things as well is who are we, and who are the dominant races, who are the recessive races, what is really an African, what is really a Native American, what is really a Puerto Rican, what is really a Jamaican, all these different things. And that's the main point of that. And we had to know that because, again, in this society, they stamp whoever they want to stamp, and we don't get our true information, our true genetics. And then that's why I tell people, if you can look for Let's Set the Record Straight. Let's Set the Record Straight straightens out who people are on this planet without having to listen to whatever the devil tells us of who our races are. So again, Chief Thunderbird is the Native American part of him. He just basically exposed who he was in terms of his Native American lineage and genetics. And to this day, he's still the same. It's just deciding on, because as a being that he is, he takes on different names at different times depending on the school of thought. But for Chief Eagle Mound, for the Chief, as some people call him the Chief as well, that's who he is. It's just that's just a title that he holds, as well as being the Supreme Grand. It's the same thing as being the Supreme Grand Hierophant of the ancient Egyptian order. And under Chief Eagle Thunderbird, he is the Chief Native American of the Yamasee Native Americans, or the Yamasee Native American wu-nuwaupians. And that's the thing within that as well, is he encouraged people as well to, in that United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, to have your own sovereignty and to also have your own rules, regulations, and constitution. Because as United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, we had our own constitution. The same way we had our own constitution in the ancient Egyptian order. He used the same thing. It didn't matter. That's why, as I stated earlier, when we left Islam, we left the Ansar community, we went into the Nubian nation, his thing became, we need to be able to name ourselves, have our own language, our own names, our own cultures, so that we can define ourselves. Because most of our people, even people that call themselves into Kemetic science, they're defining themselves based upon what the Europeans have given them. So at the end of the day, you're still being named based upon what they told you are. So at the end of the day, you have no idea who you are. You allow yourself to be defined based upon what the Caucasian tells you. So for us, he gave us a gift that we can name ourselves. That Constitution gives us our sovereign rights to this day, even with the ancient Egyptian order, as the hierophant of the ancient Egyptian order, as wu-nuwaupu, also known as Tahuti, we still had a constitution that we abide by and still abide by to this day as Nuwaupians. So all these things still needed and are still things that as a whole as black people need, because we have to have rules and regulations, especially during this day and time where we are stepping into genocide with these Caucasians now. So that's also a problem, is that we do not have codes, and we do not have codes that we abide and live by to this day. And so a constitution was something that, under that name, Chief Thunderbird, Naya Malachi Zadak York L, he implemented so that we have our own rules, we have our own regulations that the devil cannot penetrate. So that is extremely important. So that was one of the main things under that school, under that title and that name, that he was able to implement to us.
So for people who are not familiar with the kidnapping, would you like to go into that?
Definitely. Oh my. It happened on the day of May 8th, 2002. I can give you what I do know, because I was living on the land at the time. I was coming home because I used to work with the brothers Twinity, one of my father's rap groups, and we were driving home. And basically, we drove down. It was a usual street that we drive down on 404 Shadydale Road. And on 404 Shadydale Road, only thing that you saw was, because we actually stopped at a gas station prior, and some Nuwaupians saw us, and they recognized us and told us that it was 1,000 cops on the land. And when we made our turn to the land, next thing you know, you see thousands of cops just all over the place, and we couldn't even get into the land. And they had, the reality is, man, a lot of people don't know, you had guns to kids' faces, you had M16s to people. It was crazy. You had cops trying to feed the children poison. I mean, it was crazy. And this was everything that was going on even after him being kidnapped, because he had a specific routine that, he would write, and then he would leave with some of the sisters, and then he would go and get something to eat. And they was able to track him and find him at the restaurant, because the reality is most of the information a lot of people don't know about is privileged to a lot of people who don't know, is that his first lawyer, Garland, was able to tell everybody on the land that there's so many different FBI informants that were implemented by, the CIA and COINTELPRO, that they knew every movement that he was making. And they didn't have evidence of child molestation, but they were able to know where he was so they could take him. And this was on a Tuesday, May of 2002. This was Tuesday afternoon. And they vandalized his car. They abused him physically. The wife that he had with him that used to drive him, the whole nine, man. And this was something that a lot of people don't know about also, that we all were supposed to be wiped out the same day, but at 1 o'clock in the morning, they were going to pull a Waco, the same way they went to Waco and burnt everybody up. They were going to basically do the same thing on the land, on Tamaray, but they decided not to do that. So they decided to do it a whole different way and just raid and just do what they wanted to do. And to this day, they haven't been able to give any physical evidence of anything against him. So he went from being in Atlanta prison, then he went from the Atlanta prison to Macon, and then from Macon to Marion, Ohio, and then from Marion, Ohio to Florence, Colorado, where he's serving 135-year sentence. And he's there, of course, with the Jeff Forts, the Larry Hoover, Unabomber, the McGriffs, the H. Rap Brown. He's in that same level. Like, you have to go, in order to see my father, whoever gets a chance to see him, you're going a mile underground to go see this man. And it's a mile, it's like at least to go see him, but the elevator takes at least 20 floors to go see him underground. So he's under the jail to go see him. And the kidnapping, again, it's crazy because, again, they didn't have any evidence of anything. The hearing that went on, and I was there for the hearings up until February of 2003, the hearings where they actually had evidence to show innocence, the hearing judge would not allow us to use any information whatsoever. He was motioning every one of them to be denied. So we had a problem at that moment. So it became a hanging. You know, it was not a fair trial to begin with. So he's going into a trial where there's no way for him to even defend himself, because that hearing allows you to basically give whatever evidence that you have to show whether you're innocent or guilty, but he couldn't even show anything. And they had evidence to show innocence, but that judge at that hearing in Eatonton, Georgia, would not allow us to use any of that evidence that he had. And they just wanted that man. It had nothing to do with what's being said that he did. It had something to do with the information that was being put out. This what we will call a kidnapping, and what it really was something that is systematic. It goes all the way up further than what a lot of people know. This goes all the way up to the Zionists, because he exposed them. He exposed those who are the ones that are controlling this society and controlling the world, what we will call the Illuminati to this day. In books such as 666 Leviathan and a book called The Luciferian Conspiracy, exposes what was going on in the world. So this is bigger than that. The thing is that if you go into the case, what they wanted him to do was, in a lot of the different pleas, was they wanted him to say that everything that he taught was false, and if you say that, then we'll let you go. That's one plea that they had on the table. He wouldn't take that because he's not going to lie to anybody. And so what people will look at is, and this is the time-honored thing that it always brings up, is, well, I can go online, look at YouTube, and I see him pleading guilty and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine, but do you know why he did what he did? The people will say, well, if that was me, I don't care who was next to me, I wouldn't do it. That's you. But when you have mothers of your daughter and your children up to not come out, and they say, okay, well, look, if you say this, we'll let them go. And he said what he had to say so that he can take whatever they had ready for him, and they can let let the women go that was next to him, his baby moms and everything. They can leave, because these are the mothers of his sons and daughters. And what a lot of people don't know, in order to get that plea, because I talked about this in another interview as well, they had him basically under what we would call duress, meaning that they wouldn't give him any food, they wouldn't give him anything to drink. This was almost 36 hours. And they broke him down in order to get what they wanted from him. At first he wasn't giving them anything, but they broke him down after days of duress. And they got what they wanted from him, which was to lock him up. He was already facing counts. And the thing that people don't know is that in child molestation, you don't have to have any evidence at all. I can say that a person did something to me when I was 10 years old. It doesn't have to even be true in child molestation. If I can give you a date, that date becomes a count. And each count can equal up to over 1,000 years. If it's not just me, but 20 other children that's saying the same thing, it doesn't have to have any physical evidence whatsoever in child molestation. That's the one thing people don't know. Now, rape after the statute of limitation is thrown out. It's supposed to be, But in child molestation, if I can say, well, you did X, Y, and Z against me when I was 10 and I give you a date, that's a count. So no evidence whatsoever. I can just say this is what you did, and that's it. And that's exactly what he was facing. He was facing counts. Because the thing is that in the judicial system, you don't want to be known as trying to tell a child, well, this didn't happen, even though there's no evidence to back up what's being said. And there wasn't any, regardless. So not even being able to have any evidence to show innocence from the hearing, he's automatically going into the trial facing 1,000. So he was coming into it to have a proverbial public hanging waiting for him. And that's the thing a lot of people don't know, is that if you're not able to put yourself in those shoes, you can't say what, because literally it was virtually the mothers of his children basically being held. So, okay, we'll let them go as long as you say this. And even letting them go, they were still being banned from doing certain things. So their life to this day is still not right. They're still not able to do certain things in Georgia where most of them are living. You know, their children are still being harassed. There's still things going on to this day with his family people don't know about. But, yeah, they were able to do what they did on May 8th. And that's the day that, you know, I've yet to, since then I have not seen my father since that day, May 8th on a Tuesday, 2002. And that's been 13 years going on 14 to this day. So he just has turned 70 in 2015. And what we're facing now is having immunity for him to be released to Liberia to be able to live out the rest of his time as a free man under immunity in Liberia. So that's what we're facing right now.
All right, for some of the people who probably just got into this information, there's some things circulating around in regards to books that are out. Can you verify any of the authenticity to say whether or not those books relate back to any of the teachings or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have some of what we call actual facts that may attach. There's a lot of them that was written by him also before he was incarcerated. He had a lot of transcripts that he wrote in specific languages, and some that was also in English. So those were written by him. Then you have some that were not written by him that had some of his information, and then some took some of that information. They were able to harness some of that. And from up until about 2009, that information is him. Then you have a lot of the newer ones right now that are very different than what he wrote prior to 2009. And back in 2014, I went to a radio show. Not a radio show, I'm sorry. I did the wu-nuwaupu Ball. And at that point, there was some announcements that were going to be some wu-nuwaupuans going to come out with their own brand of books. And at this point, it's not for certain whether that's him or that's them, because there is a difference between his writing style and some of the writing style that you're seeing today. Like, for example, those that we know, the books that we know as him, is like, say, 666 Leviathan, Let's Set the Record Straight, with Adam Black or White, Black Devil book, Man Planet Risk, of course, Mission Earth Extraterrestrial Involvement, The Beginning Scroll, hundreds of them. But when you go a little further down, also you have a book he put out called Or Jesus God, where he explains the different Anus of ancient Samaria, over 16 to 20 of them, going all the way back to 49,000 years. But from 2009 on, he couldn't make that call. So he had to leave a lot of that work up to other people. in order to put the information out. So he's not the author of a lot of the information coming out right now. Quiet as kept. There's a lot of that written by other people in order to keep the information going. Which is, I clearly understand that. It's just that needs to be cleared up a little bit, because you can tell the difference if you compare from, let's say, you have a book called the Stargate. In actual fact, that's him. Whereas some that are coming out right now totally contradicts itself in a lot of ways, because it's a different person writing it. So that's just from me knowing what I know. It's a difference within the two, and you have to just know that there's still pertinent information within what's being put out right now. It's just that you just have to know that that's not 100% him. I mean, of course, he can't, because he's not able to communicate with people like that. He's in Florence, Colorado. So that's what a lot of people have to understand, too. You're not going to be able to write like that, like he was able to while being locked up for a 23-hour lockdown like that. That's not going to happen. So a lot of people now are taking on that same responsibility, and it's not going to be the same. It's just not going to be the same. It's just that people need to already know that, know that there is going to be a difference in the way the information is coming out, because the way he connects with people is a lot different than what a lot of people are getting right now. It's a big difference from what a lot of people have seen in most of the years that he authored, whereas now it's a big difference. So you just have to know when there was a point, and the point was where there was a difference in the information, because he was no longer the sole author of that information. It became other people putting it together.
Now, I know there was some books that he put out that he allowed some students to write under his supervision. I know it's a couple of them. So what would you say to some of the people who are running around, and what we discussed earlier as far as plagiarism, not giving credit to the source of their information? It's a lot of people running around quoting Doc's information but not giving credence. And then on the other end of the spectrum, coming with his information and using that as a opportunity or mode to strive to discredit the brother and his work.
I think that's, of course, very disrespectful. It's very funny you mention that, because I will sit at and listen to a lot of brothers now, House of Consciousness and whatnot. They'll use the information, but then they won't give credit, or they'll disrespect him, and that's one thing I could always say about Polite. I haven't gotten that from him since I've watched him. Of course, me being his son, I'd be real analytical of everything that he did, and I was able to meet the brother, of course, recently, and able to give respects to him, of course, to be able to do, whatever he's doing right now, write books as well, and do whatever he is to be successful. But there are others that will take it, that will say certain things, and this study does it as well. He'll say certain things, no disrespect to the brother, but he'll say certain things, and where it came from, but then you'll make a debating and disrespecting him. And it's like, okay, that's just like, that's very sad, because what would be the point? What are you gaining from that? And that's been going on for years. Like, you'll have the brother Phil Valentine. And I like Phil Valentine, but it's like you can hear certain things that he says that my father said years ago. You'll hear certain things that Bobby Hemmett said that my father said years ago. And this is real. While my father was out, people will know this. My father was out doing what he was doing, writing books, teaching. You didn't hear anything from anybody else. And it wasn't that they didn't do their works, because they did their works. You give respect to them for doing their works. But at the same time, when Dr. York was doing Dr. York and he was teaching the people, you heard very little. I never heard of a Dr. Valentine or a Bobby Hemmett or a Kwesi, or even with the Dr. Delbert Blair. And his daughter is actually Nuwaupian. So it's funny how Blair will quote Nibiru, no one calls him crazy. But when my father first started talking about Nibiru in 1995, he was crazy for talking about it. He explained, he broke down all forms of that information, but when Dr. Blair talks about it, all of a sudden, it's a problem. I mean, when Dr. Blair talks about it, everyone believes it and no one questions it. But when my father talks about it, it's a problem. And it's like, look, my father was one of the first ones, if not the first one, in our community to come with learning of that extraterrestrial information and using the word Nibiru. Now, all of a sudden, you got Blair talking about it. Again, no one even mentions the fact that, hey, this first. Why not give credit where credit is due? All of a sudden now, it's like his name isn't even mentioned no more. But everybody wants to come out and they want to say this and use his name and use his information as if you don't know where it came from. You know where it came from. Give credit where credit is due. And that's the thing. It's like now you have to charge people up about that. And it shouldn't be like this. Because, again, if I use Dr. Ben's information, which I give respect to, of course, peace and blessings be upon him, but I should be held accountable for not giving the cited information back to who it came from. But yet people can say different words, and I'm going to set the record straight, and I'm saying, okay, you know where you got that from. Let's be honest with it. You know where you got that from, so let's keep it honest. And that's the problem that I have as being a son. I listen to people. I don't say anything, but I listen. I say, wow, you're just using information, and you're just saying certain words, and now you're taking a spotlight that was on him for years. There's people who are out now, Blair and the Hemmis and all that stuff. They don't even have it in their own orders. They just teach what they were taught from or what they borrowed. And my father was one of the few. You can take his information all day, but you can't do what he did. He took our people to the zenith because he had land. And there's people who they would rather debate. They would use his information and debate other people with the information that he had. And the next thing you know, the question becomes, okay, where are you going to take our people after the debate is over? If that's all you're doing, then that's all you're really made for is to debate people. So the whole purpose becomes like a conscious community wrestling match. And that's a problem because our people deserve more than just watching people debate. That's not what we're here for. Are we really here to learn this information, or are we here just to watch people go back and forth and have an ego wrestling match? Because it's like watching House of Conscience sometimes is like a WWE, jump off the top rope and listen. It's like, come on, man. Let's keep it real with each other. What are you really trying to do? What are you really trying to do? And this is no disrespect to those brothers, to Sonetta. I respect Sonetta and I respect King Simon, but at some point you got to take them to another level. Where are we taking the people? And to have the land that we had, because you got to realize Egypt is in the hands of Arabs, of white Arabs, Muslims. So Egypt of the West was something that we could have a replica of who we are and who we once were. And nobody to this day have been able to duplicate that. Part of it is the credit, because tell me that, ask or let me know, is there any other teacher other than before him, Elijah Muhammad? Then you had Yahweh ben Yahweh who had land as well in certain areas, very wealthy man. But anybody else since my father that's been able to create land and monuments and feed the children as well as the women and be self-sustainable and self-sovereign, nobody else has. But all you get is people use the information and disrespect them. And that's a problem, because then you don't want to give reference where reference is due because you're afraid to associate yourself. Whereas with me, I have no problem because I don't mind saying on a man's shoulders that I'm from, and the legacy stands to this day. But people would rather use and plagiarize and not give any credit, and it's okay. but we know where you're getting it from, because without him, you wouldn't be able to say the things that you're saying. So it's okay, because at the end of the day, we know where you got. It's like my father ghost wrote for a lot of people to this day, and they're just using the information to just have an ego stroke back and forth, which is hilarious. I find it funny, but it's sad at the same time. I just hope they get it together, because our people are the ones that's at stake. Our people are the ones that's at stake, and that's what's going on right now, is that we're facing genocide, we're facing extinction, we're facing kids and our children and our people being killed daily in the street, and you rather debate about something that has already been defined. If you want to learn about the Moors, if you want to learn about ancient Kemet, I can show you a book that my father wrote, and you can get what you need. But you rather not do that. You rather take a piece of that and just create a following that you think you need, which is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to go through things like that. But people would rather just waste the time of the people, and that's not going to work anymore, because eventually people are going to get tired of just watching the back and forth action, and it's a waste of energy. So people have to at some point elevate and transcend banter of just, having an ego stroke contest all day.
All right, family, if you got a question or a comment for our brother Ali York, that phone number to call in is 713-955-0707. That's 713-955-0707, and press 1 with your question or your comment. So, you said you got a class. You still teaching on Wednesday, right?
Wednesday nights. I have my conference call that I teach on every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern, and the number to that is 641-715-3272, and the passcode number is 706344#, and we deal with everything. We break down white supremacy. We deal with all types of information. People come with the questions. We deal with the subject matter of today, yesterday, what we're going to be dealing with from the hereafter. So it's everything. I also have a live lecture that I do in person every Saturday as well at the library here in Houston. So it's just constant teaching. So, yeah, and also, as well as I put out 3 DVDs, lecture DVDs I put out that I'm also pushing as well. It's the Mental Slavery 1 and 2. That's part 1 and part 2 together. I'll put out also something called The Secret Covenant, where I break down the blue bloods of the Illuminati, all 4 families. And then the last and final one, which was called Rex 84, which is the King Alfred Plan. All these 3 came out in 2013. And you can find these under my name on eBay, none other 999. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me right now. So
what about what do you see us going? What's some of your plans for 2016? Whatever you can say, you know what I'm saying? Because some stuff ain't for the air.
Oh yeah, no, I get you. No, right now it's about consolidating as Black people. I think it's time to have, as we said, as the elder told me, this was about 3 years ago at a reparations. It was basically a conference of reparations. The statement was we have to start having over the ground meetings and underground meetings. The underground meetings are things to, just to stuff we can't get on tonight, but then the over the ground meetings are just time we have to start joining organizations that are actually doing work. And for me, I could speak for myself, is that my future plans is not only be, of course, wu-nuwaupu Nation, but also see if I could join the New Black Panther Party, because they are about being in the streets. Because the plan that I think that we I even think I know that we have to take control of our neighborhoods, because you have to show how powerful you are as a people. The power is within numbers as well as within economics. But if you cannot control what's going on in your community, anyone can destroy you. And the one thing I am seeing is that regardless of what Panther Party is, but at least especially with the new Black Panther Party, is that here in Houston is that they do patrol. They are controlling their neighborhoods here in Houston. And it's time that we all, instead of just talking about what we're trying to do, we got to actually be about what we're trying to do. And we have to at least take it to the next level in 2016 in terms of controlling what we're trying to do, and what controlling, meaning that control our neighborhoods. Do not allow ourselves to be victims of what's going on anymore. We have to be God. God is in control. So we got to be in control of protecting our people and our families on a major level. We have to patrol the same way the cops patrol the hood every day. We got to patrol the cops to making sure that they don't kill us and they don't harm us anymore. And that's the plans that we have to all be on, is that we got to join forces with other groups that are about work and about protecting our people. It's all about protection now. Black man has to become a protector all over again, take back his seat. Black woman has to be God and be the nurturer of the whole family. Allow her to be who she's supposed to be, and we are able to be who we're supposed to be as the protectors and the providers of that family. So that's the over the ground, the surface plans. Everything else has to be talked about without the crackers being around, because we involve them in everything. The next plan is to not involve crackers in all of our business, because we spend too much time trying not to offend them, but yet liberating our people. You can't worry about what their perception is and you're trying to deal with liberation. It's not going to work like that. If you're really trying to deal with liberation, at the same time, you can't allow your enemy to be a part of your organization. Otherwise, you're going to always have problems in your organization. So if we're going to really be about doing this, we have to be able to exclude those who don't mean us any good and who continue to mean us harm since we've been here. We know who the enemy is. We've had this same enemy since he came out of the caves. So now we have to start acting on that information. You act on that information by excluding those who don't mean you harm, who can still continue to use their privilege in white supremacy to try to eliminate us on this planet, because they face genetic survival. So it's time to start joining conglomeracy, joining in a form of a conglomeracy with other people of like mind. If there's groups that are not about saving our people, then forget them. Move on and forget them. Move on with your life and forget them. And if they're not about protecting our people, if they're not about protecting our children, if it's an argument there, then you know what you have to do. You have to move on from that. And that's what we have to do. The whole thing comes down to putting down a plan that we have to be able to include everybody, include organizations, but weed out the ones who are not serious. And once we're able to weed out the ones who are not serious, then we can move on and start dealing with the serious issues of our community. Because they're going to do, if they're still all about debating and they're still all about going back and forth, they're obviously not very serious. So then we need to move on. And also, we have to be able to control the economics of our community. That means that at the end of the day, even to the smallest level of the clothes that we're wearing, there's too many conscious black-owned shirts, shoes, sneakers, pants, hats, that we should not be going to the European for any form of wear or clothes. We should be, anything that you have on should be able to reflect black-owned businesses. That's what we need to do. The blackout that I was a part of last month, November or so, we have to take that same mindset literally every week. We have to be able to do it out. And that's one thing I learned from living on the land, was that to learn to do without. It wasn't about starving anybody. It was about learning how to do without, because the devil was coming and we had to be ready for him. You understand? So that now we have to take that same mindset and become more disciplined and become ready for war on every front that it is. So just a surface answer before we get to a beneath the surface plan. That's not going to include everybody.
All right, before we go to the phone line, I just wanted to ask you, what does liberation look like for you? I know you said some of the action steps that need to be taken towards liberation, but what does liberation look like for you in your mind?
Liberation for me means being around those of like mind and excluding the crackers from every form of our life, and being completely sovereign in any form of our life. You know, liberation on that front, that we have to take it to that level, that we can't continue to keep bringing the enemy in our business, bringing the enemy in our organizations. So we are completely liberated from his rule, and we become completely sovereign and have our own laws, because then you cannot really say you're liberated when you're still living under his laws, because he can always control your movements and tell you what to do in your own house, because we're in his house. But liberation comes when we create a platform and a system to where we're no longer in his house under his rules. We create a house and we're under our own rules within that house. So that's liberation for me. You know, our own currency, our own language, our own laws, and no white people. That's where we need to start taking it to.
That sounds like my picture of liberation. No white people.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
At least you know where you stand. If I don't see none of them, I know where I stand, and that's all right.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a such thing as heaven, that's where I would want to be at, right there.
Yeah, right there. Right
oh
there.
man. All right, family, we're about to go to the phone lines. Don't forget, if you got a question or a comment and you're in the call queue, or you listening remotely, that phone number is 713-955-0707. Again, that's 713-955-0707. Do the Knowledge Radio, episode 44. Our comrade, our liberation advocate, Ali York, here with us. So we're going to go to the phone lines now. We're going to go to area code 201-355, 201-355.
Greetings.
Thanks.
Great. Oh, thank you, Mr. York, for taking some time out to answer some questions. You cleared up a lot of questions that I had just on the background of what's been going on. I have two quick questions. First, what can we be done, or this is hopefully an above the ground question. For Dr. York, with all that he's given us, and he's just changed my life. The books, I've been reading the book since '89. Right. Just what you described is, of course, beyond demonic. He is locked down a mile under the ground. And, what can we do for those so far on the outside that can help and get him free, for one, if anything that we can do. And then two, I personally don't see us getting, realizing that vision of liberation here. So my mind is more leaning toward the continent. Then I'd like to, hear your thoughts about that, and and again, above the ground question on some things that we could do to kind of, what would be the vision potentially to be on the continent, and things that we could do, or what you see, for our people being there or moving there.
Okay. But to answer the first question, how we go about help free him. We need to do more things like this on a separate level. It needs to be more of an advocacy on his situation. One of the main things that helped his case was the Mystery Behind Closed Doors documentary that's online right now. If you ever get a chance to go on YouTube, you put in Mystery Behind Closed Doors, and it breaks the whole case down as of what happened to him, and his basically his victimization. And because the main thing he wanted people to do, and I noticed a lot of people did the opposite. He wanted people to combat a lot of those television interviews. Like you had the one with Montel Williams, and you had the one where people was on Tom Jordan Morning Show. The same person who wrote the book Ungodly was on Tom Jordan Morning Show. Then you had another episode where it was on the OWN network with Oprah Winfrey on Dr. Phil. And he wanted to combat that because they were just saying lies. And he wanted people to get out in the media as much as possible. Like if you notice the sister Ramona Africa from the MOVE organization, that's what she's doing. She's, you don't hear about it because they want her to be completely suppressed, because she's like the lasting member of that extermination of that whole race. I mean, of that whole group. And he wants people to be out there as much as possible in whatever capacity, in whatever circuit. And right now, the organization's working on is to give him immunity to get to Liberia. Is just keeping the lawyers, as much as possible, paid and everything. So that is like up and down all the time, and I realize that too, because organizations don't have a lot of money anymore, and that's just being honest. It comes down to awareness, because when we are able to tag him on with other political prisoners, it gets more awareness to it. It's like he's isolated. Dr. York is isolated in his own little situation, and he's not connected to an Asada. He's not connected to an H. Rap Brown. There's several. It's a lot of political prisoners that a lot of us don't know about. I was able to see the amount that we do still have that we're not talking about. He needs to be in that same conversation. So it sounds like people think it's impossible, but it's not impossible, because if enough of us are talking about it, then it can actually happen, and people can actually analyze the case all over again, and we can actually find out exactly what can be done to at least lessen the sentence of 135 years, or at least have it to where, well, look, let's just deal with what he's already served, and let's just get him out. They don't have any evidence, because they was able to show recently that there is no evidence to back up what was being said. He's just still sitting there. And that's the crazy part, is that they've already confirmed there was no physical evidence of any molestation, but he's still sitting there in prison in Florence, Colorado. And that's a problem too, because so it needs to be more of an advocacy to getting him out, as opposed to just, this person here might do an interview, this person right here might do. It's like a zombie mindset for a lot of people, where they just think, okay, this person's doing this, so this is going to happen. It's like, no, we have to all get involved to spread the word out as much as possible that this is not supposed to be going on right now on our watch. And just to go into your second question, I'm very with going to the continent to basically recreate. The whole thing that my father was talking about for years is that he wanted to relocate to Africa, and he still wants to. Of course, he's trying to get the immunity there. It's just that with us as a people, what we tend to do is we think Africa, but we never think changing the condition there. We'll be like, okay, I'm going to move to Ghana, and then next thing you know, you become just as poor as the people in Ghana, because the people in Ghana, they're hustling just as hard as anybody else out here in America. It's crazy. And we have to be ready, because it's like you said, we're facing a beast out here who, in his mind, owns the United States. But if we move to Africa, we have to be able to change the whole situation. We have to come over there with currency and be ready to take those resources back. We can't just go there as Africans with all this information, and we're still going over there with the same mindset. We have to be ready to come together. It's something that Umar Johnson said. We got to come together current on a monetary value and be able to invest in those resources and those diamond mines as well, so that we become wealthy and we own the resources, as opposed to the same Jews and these same Asians and these same people who are, and these Arabs who are still raping our resources, because that's our land, as well as this one here, because we built it. But it will be better now that we can relocate. It's an idea that I feel is necessary. We just have to do like some sisters that I know that moved over to Ghana, and they built villages in Ghana for homeless Africans, because you have different tribes over there, and the Ashanti tribe is still dominant there. They are still reaping the resources of the slave trade, and you have another tribe over there that barely has plumbing, and she was able to go over there. I'm just giving an example. They were able to go over there and actually create, houses with whatever she brought over there for the people. And we have to have that mindset, also a business mindset, that we not only invest in ourselves, we invest in the people there as well, so that we are able to change the complexity as opposed to just bringing a problem. Because we got to be able to change our mental problems here, so that we can become new people when we bring ourselves over there to the continent. So I completely agree with the relocation process. It just takes time. The whole thing just takes time. We have to weed out our own misconceptions of ourselves and what we think of Africa. We change that mindset and be ready to be able to change what they're dealing with, because a lot of them are Christianized. I'm just using Ghana as an example, because a lot of us I've known have moved to Ghana and become successful. But in Ghana, they're very poor, and they're very much into the Christian doctrine. So we got to be over there and be ready to teach those people and change the complexion of the whole environment as well.
Taha.
Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question?
Oh, Taha for that answer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no problem. No problem at all, though.
All right, we're going to go to the next caller. My warrior comrade and sister on the show. Her show is tomorrow. My sister, Dr. Queen T.
Peace to the gods.
Peace, Queen.
All right. I had more of a comment than a question, but I just wanted to let you know that your vision of liberation, I wholeheartedly appreciate that, because just like Brother Knowledge said, I share that same vision of liberation. And like the caller said as well, my end goal is to be able to go back to the continent and build there, as you said. But I do believe that building economics here is important, because most of us have to have a goal of getting back to the continent. And during that time, we need to be, like you said, learning these skills and getting the resources. You basically said what my comment was going to be, so I don't want to repeat everything that you just said, but I agree that we need to get the skills, get the resources, open businesses here, not only so that we can take them back, but for those who won't be able to go with us at the same time, we can leave something for them to continue building. Because I think a part of our process is, with every generation, we kind of have to start the movement over again, because we're not passing down these things to be built upon. If you look at Bill Gates, a lot of the things that he's funding for the black genocide, he said he learned from his father. You get what I'm saying? So his father started it, but Bill Gates was actually able to carry it out. And so if we are building a base and building our economics here on this land, the people who would not be able to go maybe at the same time as us will be able to continue building until they too can come back. And also, like you said, we have to be able to take something with us. We can't just take, we can't go with knowledge. Knowledge doesn't pay the bills. And again, most people don't realize that you have to build an economy when you get over there, and it's better to have a business that is necessary in that market when you get there, so that you won't end up in the same situation as the people who live there currently. But, yes, I don't believe that it's wise to believe that we can take this land back and all that. We built this land. We were here first, but at a certain point you have to realize the reality of what's going on today. And so I believe that moving back will be beneficial. But until we are able to do that, we need to build our own economy, take control of our own neighborhoods, police our own neighborhoods, do these things, teach the children skills so that when they get older, they will be able to be successful in their adulthood and hopefully move back as well to the continent and do those things that they would like to do. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to also add to what the sister said, and thank you for commenting as well. Our ancestors, and this is again, I always say not to knock our ancestors of the civil rights struggle, but in terms of, let's say, Dr. King, A. Philip Randolph, they just basically bought time with the signing of the Civil Rights Act. They just bought time. It wasn't like, okay, this is the key to liberation. This is the key to what we think is going to end Jim Crow laws and is going to give us the proper laws to vote. All these things sounded nice. It sounds nice for whites to teach to our people, but at the same time, what did it do for us in the end? It basically set us backwards, because we literally, in 1964, were literally more advanced than having our own businesses in our own towns, in our own cities, than we are today. And my thing is that we cannot teach our people about ancient Kemet and about Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and about Black Wall Street if we're not willing to do it again. What's the point?
Right.
You know, and that's a problem for me, because I'm like, what is the point of learning about all these great things that we've done as a people? It's inside of you to do it again, but you're not willing to do it again. You have to be able to replicate what you've done before. That's the whole purpose of knowing history, is to realize what you were able to do and also learn from your mistakes that you made in the past while you were doing it.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's the thing. Let's say, for example, we made mistakes in ancient Kemet. We let down the immigration laws and we let the crackers in.
Right.
Next statement. We, as Moors, we literally civilized the savage Europeans, but at the same time we were under Islamic rule. So at the same time, we were still Muslims. We had to let religion go. The next step, Black Wall Street. You mean to tell me that we had all that going on, but they were able to bomb us from above, and then we lost it, we rebuilt it, but at the same time, integration comes in, and that's another mistake. We still think to this day that integrating with our enemies is going to save us. And you can't play this Black Lives Matter game while your enemy is funding your movement. He's funding Black Lives Matter.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I agree with that. I think that integration has always been our downfall. I was talking to a group of people about that yesterday, that we have to learn that lesson, you know, to stop integrating. That shouldn't be our goal or our focus. That should be the absolute last thing we think about, is in being all-inclusive, because that's been our downfall, like you said, from the days of ancient Kemet. And that's exactly the example I gave yesterday, is that from that far back, that's been our downfall, and we still haven't quite learned the lesson yet. And when are we going to learn that lesson and really learn it to the point where we don't do it anymore? And that's not our concern. I'm not concerned with offending you because I won't let you in. I'm concerned with the advancement of my people and the success of my people. So I 100% agree with that statement, those statements that you made.
We have to be unapologetically African, and we have to start saying how we feel and stop worrying about appeasing to whites. And I get tired of hearing people say, I'm not anti-white, I'm not anti-white. I'm like, why do you need to apologize to white people for how you really feel?
Right?
That's ridiculous. If they're anti-black, they're anti-black. But you want to say, I'm not anti-white. Why are you apologizing to white people after they just killed your wife? They just killed Sandra Bland, and they killed your 12-year-old son. But I'm not anti-white. I'm gonna need you to stop to stop tap dancing for a little bit and just get yourself together. Because it sounds nice to say, but you sound like somebody from the civil rights movement. Leave that alone. Yeah. Again, we keep making these same mistakes. Okay, they're not paying attention to you. What they're looking at is we're facing genetic annihilation, and we need to get rid of them. They can kill us whether you love them or not. Stop trying to rub against white people and accept the fact that they are your enemy. They've let you know that when they came from the caves. But you want to keep trying to integrate with them. That's why you keep saying, that's why the thing is that's why we talked about underground and over-the-ground conversation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? An over-the-ground conversation starts when we see, okay, how do you feel about this cracker killing your people? And if you feel bad about it, so then how do you feel about still integrating with this cracker? And how do you feel about being in a world where you don't see them anymore? And if that hurts you to no longer see them, then we definitely can't take you to an underground conversation because it will blow up because the same idea in mind.
Right. It becomes infiltration.
Exactly. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying what you had to say, sister.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
No problem. What's up?
Dr. Quinty, you want to tell them about tomorrow's show?
Absolutely.
I appreciate
tomorrow,
it.
let me, no problem. Let me back out of my garage here. You know how that I'll get cut off if I go in there. Tomorrow's show we're going to be talking about, well, the show's going to start with, tomorrow's show is going to start with talking about a little bit of the group economics. You mentioned the Marcus Garvey, the Black Wall Street and that type of thing. So tomorrow we're going to start out with my godmother. I'm going to bring her in because one of the things that I want to do is kind of a Black Wall Street type of project, and so I'm going to talk about that on the call. But we're going to have my godmother call in because she has these massive events in Cleveland. Last time I went home, she was having a festival, 2 festivals, one on each side of Cleveland, where she had black vendors out and they were selling, their products, and she had bands and, educational things going on. And then just, I think in the next couple of weeks, she's having an event where she's feeding 1,400 people in the city of Cleveland and those different things. And so I told her that I would like her to come on so that we can learn how to the startup, how to start putting these types of events together for ourselves. So we'll talk a little bit about group economics and black economics and those type of things at the beginning. But the topic of the show tomorrow is actually going to be dating in the black community. And we're going to talk about some of the things that are hot topics when we talk about dating in the conscious community or black power or whatever, however you title yourself in that movement. But, like interracial dating and dating preferences and different stereotypes, we're going to get into that because, that I mostly do relationship types of shows, but I'm also black power. So tomorrow we're going to have a little half and half because last week we talked about group economics and with the Kwanzaa celebration that we were doing, and so I want to kind of finish off that conversation with some how-to so that we can move forward. You guys know that I don't like talking about things and not putting any movement to it or an actual plan in place and progressing with that. So I want to do some how-tos and talk about getting a plan started, and then we'll move into the relationship side of the call tomorrow evening.
Sounds good.
And tell them to bring their seat belts and bring their notepads and their pens and their helmets. And some gravity, because people gonna be they're gonna be calling in heated, so they better not call here weak. They'll be eliminated.
Just call. We can handle any call. We can handle it. Call however you feel like it, and we'll escalate or de-escalate as necessary.
Yeah, I'm just joking. That's my sister. That's my comrade, and I'm glad every time. She comes on, because she brings that wise spirit on to keep us in order. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's real good.
And she saved me from having to say it at the end of the program, and I would have left something out. You know what I mean? I got scolded. So.
Oh, well, I know how that feels. I know how that feels.
All right, we're going to go on to the next call. Thanks, Dr. Queen T.
Thank you.
Peace. I'll see my comment. He might have got bumped off. I guess he got bumped off.
Oh, okay. It's all right.
All right, so you got anything in particular you wanted to get into? You know, we still got time.
Okay. Well, it's just do whatever we can to, as a group, as a family, as a black family, to do whatever we can at this point to consolidate. You know, this is saying that we have to be responsible for ourselves as a whole. That's the most important thing right now, is to be responsible. Responsibility, for regardless of the situation, that we have to learn from mistakes that's being made to our people now to make sure that they don't happen anymore. You know, we can't be reliant. We spend most of our time being reliant on other people to save us, and that's not going to work no more. It sounds nice. It sounds nice to say, okay, at some point we're going to march this way out of it. We're going to get this picket sign, and we're going to yell and scream and this and that. But that yelling and screaming is still asking. You're still asking for someone to give you something. And we have to be done with asking. Every other race takes what they want while we're still asking for what we want. And the asking is left over from Christianity, because you want people, you want to stay Christ-like and full of faith and belief that at some point something's going to work for you. At the same time, it's not gonna work like that. You have to be ready. You know, you see an example of Dylan Roof where within the same week the congregation is forgiving, yet this cracker can go in there and kill your people up, and you don't even say anything about it. You're ready to forgive and move on. That's a mental disease. For someone to do something like that to you, and you're automatically ready to forgive that quick, you have to be sick in the mind, because no one else would do anything like that. If at a time of war in ancient Kemet, we went to war, we cut heads, and you're telling me now those are your ancestors, but because of religion, we saw what we did then as devilishment. So we see our people, our ancestors, as separate from us now because we're now in religion. So biggest problem that we face is our ideology and our perception of who we are. Because what happens is that with religion, you tend to no longer be who you are as a race, as a black person, as a black man or black woman, and you see yourself now as the religion. That's why blacks are so inclusive of everybody, because your ideology brings everybody within your group. You don't exclude nobody. Whereas because your religion and your science is supposed to be defined based upon your situation. Whereas black people, regardless of how bad it gets, will hold on to something even if it's not working for us. And that's a problem. So we have to be ready to let go of things that we know are falsehood and take on just being ourselves. Once we're able to do that, then we can be a lot better off. But we tend to just let things slide and let things move on while we're still being killed in the street, and we act like we don't have any answers. Those who don't have the answers need to fall to the wayside, and those who can come up with the solutions need to work together and move on. And once we're able to do that, then we can start solving our own problems, because we got to be ready to go to war. No war is won without any form of bloodshed. There is no, you can't fight a war passively, because you'll be picked off. And he knows, just like Carter G. Woodson said this, that the slave at this point they're not going to wait on the plantation to be created. They will create the plantation for themselves and put themselves to work for the slave master. And that's what we keep doing. We keep going in that same cycle of creating a way to oppress ourselves. So we need to get out of that. And again, it needs to be a front consolidation and getting to work and mending. Because yesterday's class, I taught on a tribute to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, peace be upon her, and her making her transition. It was about, as the sister said, having healthy black relationships. How do you kill white supremacy? Healthy black relationships, being codified that certain behavior no longer happens, no longer disrespecting each other, having constructive conversations, because races, when they come together for business, they have constructive conversations. They take over specific land, and that's it, and they invest their money. Black people are going to start having the same conversations. It's no longer what we need to do and what about black on black crime. All them type of stupid conversations are going to have to cease to exist. We need to deal with our enemy, and we need to start dealing with ourselves and moving on and creating our own way of doing what we need to do. And that's how we need to move on and move forward as a people, because no one's going to do it for us. As Dr. John Henry Clark say, we are alone. We have no friends. We keep trying to make friends with everybody else. And my father says this, we have to stop also being so compliant to what people call us. As I said, stop worrying about being called anti-white. I'm anti-white. Are you serious? Why wouldn't you be anti-white? White people are killing your people, and you're worried about being anti-white? They're killing you, and they're not worried about being anti-black. They know who they are. They know what they know what their likeness is. They know what their nature is. That's why they continue to do what they do. An animal only does what it's supposed to do by their nature. That's why studying nature is important, because you could see what a person does, what an animal does, and what nature does. It always works its way back to the source of what it is and what it's supposed to do. And black people don't see themselves as a part of nature. They see themselves as separate from nature. So they're separate from that. They just see themselves as just a human being. So they don't see themselves as God, because we are the control of the planet, and we are what levels the planet off. But if these crackers are trying to continue, that's why they know in 2053 their numbers are going to be so small, crackers are going to be basically extinct. So we have to get to a point where, okay, we see this. Now what are we going to do about preserving our own genetics? We have to continue to refill the earth, as we did 17 million years ago, and as we did in Kemet, and as we are supposed to do now. We have to continue to refill the earth. Otherwise, we will be just as bad as they are, still searching for a way out of the situation that they are putting us in, and that we also put ourselves in because of integration. And we have to be able to get ourselves right mentally, know who your enemy is, and know who your only friends are. And the only friends that we do have is ourselves. And once we get to that point, we will be okay, because then we can only deal with our own problems and find our own solutions to our problems.
Okay, we got another caller calling in from Houston. I think Houston trying to take over. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
We go to the area code 713-471-713-471.
Hey y'all, this is MJ from Houston, Texas.
MJ, what it do, sis?
Not much, cooling. Enjoying my family right now. So anyways, I was listening, and I have two questions. One is the going back to the continent. What do you propose we do once we get there? And the reason I'm asking is because I've been, looking at some things with Africa, and they're more Christianized now than a lot of Americans. Like, I've just seen a post where they're about to, unveil a big statue of a white Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So when we get back to Africa, what is it that we're supposed to be doing, to some people that have been brainwashed as well? And, the white people over there as well now. You have Charlize Theron and a couple more people calling themselves African. So with that being said, my second question is, with the integration, now I'm all for segregation because I understand it, but at the same time, I've been thinking about that because us, there were some of us that were here in America already, and then for the ones of us that were brought here, against our will, when we got here, a lot of things happened, with the white people. So a lot of us are not full-blood African anymore. Like a lot of the people, white people blood is in our blood. So right. With that being said, like, how do you propose us segregating from our people that do have, that blood in them? Because I could be one just as well. Like, I don't know what's all in my blood, So with that being said, like, I feel like I understand the people who, it's like they want to be down, because when you look at yourself, okay, well, I got to be from Africa. But then at the same time, like, but my great-grandmother is a white woman, you know what I'm saying? Or my auntie, she's white or whatever like that. So how do you propose getting these people, with that blood in them? How do you propose, getting them on the ball, on the train as well? Because I don't really feel like we should leave anybody behind, especially if they want to go. If they're saying, what needs to be said or doing what needs to be done, but at the same time, it's like this inevitable linkage that they have to our supposed enemies. And those are my two questions. But then I also wanted to add, like, once I started learning, like, right knowledge, because there was a lot of things I didn't know, but once I started learning, like, knowledge of self, I honestly I went from feeling angry. It's like when I started being awakened, some things I didn't know, it started with my eating and everything like that. And I went through a few stages. Like, really, my awakening made me think I was a Christian. I thought it was the Holy Ghost that got inside me. So I went through the church. I went through thinking I was a Christian to thinking I was Muslim to thinking I was a 5%er to just kind of like dabbling in everything, and the core of all of it was spirituality, you know what I'm saying? And then once I started learning, like, okay, everybody pretty much came from Africa, like all of these nationalities started from us. So that made me really start feeling sorry for our supposed oppressors, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have any hate for a person now because I kind of feel sorry for them, because y'all are going through all of this to keep us down. Like, now I kind of look at them like something, nothing to hate. Like, it doesn't make any sense, Like, I feel like we put too much energy into hating some people that are now, as I look at it, like knowing factors. You see what I'm saying? So now I feel like I honestly feel like our job for people who have been awakened and have right knowledge. Now, I feel like our only job is to wake all the rest of our people up so they can have this same, the same type of mentality versus, and I'm not anti-white and I'm not for them. Honestly, I don't feel anything towards them anymore, At first, I used to use my energy looking at them, like trying to study them and stuff like that, but then that stopped me from studying myself, So with that being said, I stopped doing that, and then, like I said, I went through these different little phases to where, damn, they did us this and they did us that, and they put these stupid movies on, the slave movies, to keep us all vibrating low and everything, and to build that hate up, to keep us like that in that mind frame. And then we go off and do crazy stuff, and they kill more of our people, So I started looking at that like, okay, that's a trap, that's more propaganda. They know what they're doing. And so, like I said, it led me deeper, and then I started feeling like, oh, okay, so how about we just don't pay them any attention and just teach our people what they need to know so they can teach their people, and so on and so forth. Because, like I said at the beginning with my questions, like, how can we hate these people when a lot of our people have their blood in them? Like, that's going to be a hard one to push to everybody, And then when we get back to Africa, like I said, what are we going to do over there? Because they're over there as well. So what do you feel like we're supposed to be? I mean, I heard some of it, but now with the questions that I've brought up, like, how do you feel like we're supposed to go about it? When we get to Africa, what are we going to do with the mind frame, because, I mean, half of the people are not awakened. You know, you have a lot of black people walking around here right now, you know, they're ready to join a Black Panther Party, they're ready to go fight, they're ready to go do all this, but they have no true knowledge of self. They still eat pork, you know what I'm saying? They're still going to the supermarket, stacking up on a whole bunch of processed foods, you know what I'm saying? You got sisters walking around still relaxing their hair, but they ready to go fight. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of little things. You got them still going to the nail shop, getting the little acrylic nails and doing all kinds of Americanized things that has nothing to do with self, you know, and getting back to nature. So with that being said, the mind is still not right, because you can take a soldier and put him in the army, and he don't even have to know what he's fighting for. You know what I'm saying? He's just gonna fight because you're telling him to fight. But I don't want those kind of soldiers. I want a soldier that know what's going on, and you fighting because it's in your heart. You know what I'm saying? And you right, so you don't look weird out here fighting. You know what I'm saying? It don't. You're not looking like an idiot, like, because what am I trying to say? Like, we have people that are fighting for black power, but they're still looking like Europeans. You know what I'm saying? So it starts with self. Like, the mind frame is still Europeanized, you know, and it's like, so. And then we bash our people for feeling like, oh, well, they still love the white man and they still this and we're going to fight for our people. But then it's like, okay, well, what's in your fridge, you know, and do your children still go to public school? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you still get shots and things like that? Like, how do you go about your personal life while you're pushing what we need to do to the enemy? Because a lot of times what I've learned since I've been awakened is the enemy wasn't the white man. Tell you the truth, the enemy was ourselves, because the person can only oppress you so long. You know, then it kind of becomes, I don't know, I think it becomes self-inflicted. Like, that's just my opinion, and it could be, you know, I don't know. I don't think it's, yes?
You going to let my brother answer your questions?
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
My brother is here to answer your question.
My bad, no. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. My bad. Okay, so yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
Okay, no, it's okay. Well, just to answer the first question dealing with Africa, we just have to be ready automatically with a plan. The first thing is not just converting anybody immediately to right knowledge. The first thing is knowing the condition first. It's like moving anywhere. Before you move anywhere, you have to know the area first. You don't just move to Idaho and you don't scope out the area that you're moving to. You don't just do that. That's not right knowledge. You have to know the area. You have to know how many people populate that area, the type of people that's going to be in that area, so that, because you're bringing your family there. It's not just yourself. You're bringing your family to that environment. So the next step is, because we know, because most people, like I said, most people are moving to Ghana because Ghana is welcoming us. And we have to, after moving there, we have to have a plan to, wherever you're moving to, you have to be able to rebuild that area, which means that we have to be able to create a relationship with the people that's there. Because just saying, hey, my name is Joe Schmo and you should read this book, that's not going to work. They're going to be like, shoot, I got to make this money. You know, it's brothers. The reality is, it's brothers that's in Ghana now that no idea what it's like here in America. We don't know what it's like out there. But there's brothers that's there, what they do. Now, I'm just going to give an example of what they do over there. They will have, like, they'll knit. They basically will create a blanket, or they'll create a cloth, kente cloth, or just a cloth to wear. And that's the way that they feed their children. See, we're out here, and we have regular jobs. A person has a regular job. You work, you make a certain amount of money, and you are able to pay your bills and pay your rent. The people over there barely are able to feed themselves and their wife and their children. So if we're coming over there already with an economic plan with group economics, we have to convert that currency over so where everybody's benefiting from what we're bringing. We're not just bringing baggage. And so The whole purpose is this. The same thing as with the Panthers in the 60s. The Panthers came with a mindset that they were changing the whole area, the whole landscape of Oakland, California, not just Oakland, but all over, so that if you look at the free lunch program, that was their idea. The whole idea was, okay, look, we are feeding these, which is our people, but at the same time, what that does, that's why the government shut that down, because whoever is feeding you and is providing for you, you're more likely to have an allegiance to those people because they're feeding you. And what we have to do here is we have to already create our group economic plan here. That has to be instilled before we even leave this land, is that we have to already be for and by each other. So the thing is, every other race is already, basically, they've already consolidated. If you go in other people's neighborhoods, you go in the Latino neighborhood, you go into Indian neighborhoods, the Pakistanians, the white Arabs, whites, we're still segregated. See, we think we're integrated, but we're segregated. We're still very much segregated in the society. We think that we're integrated, but we're not. So when they need to do what they need to do, they create systems that only benefit themselves. They don't see it as wrong. It's just a part of their culture. Thing is, with blacks in America, that's not a part of their culture. The main thing that we do is, let's say, for example, when Trayvon Martin happened, we protest, or we might get loud and we scream and we do the whole thing. Or time it happens, we're asking for something to be given to us. That's a part of our culture. We are asking people. We're not demanding people because we're afraid of something that's going to happen back to us. See, in a time of war, again, you cannot be afraid of what's going to happen to you. And no other race thinks like that. And so that's the problem with our people, is that we're automatically thinking about what's going to happen as opposed to making the solutions already. And so that's one step. As long as we have group economics already set up, then we can already take that to the other side, which is the other continent, which is Africa. And as the sister said, Ghana is very much Christianized. As you said, they're erecting a statue to the white God. So as long as we're on point with our information, because the sister that I know that's already over there that is building in Ghana, she's actually giving the people information on themselves. Because you got to realize, us here with knowledge of self, we actually have more information on them and their history than they even have about themselves. So we have to be the educators as well as the builders of that situation. That's the main thing my father was saying, is that you cannot go over there thinking you're just going to walk, well, if it get too bad, I'm going to move to Africa. It's like, no, Negro. You can't just move to Africa and just escape the white man. No, you move to Africa because you're a God, and you're gonna change the condition of the situation. Of course, there's white people going to be over there. They've colonized the area, but if you're able to create situations where you are the sole proprietor of that situation, they can do very little to you. You understand? That's what we call actually having a codification process, that we're able to be responsible for what's going on over there, as opposed to just coming over there with baggage. And the second statement you made in terms of we're already mixed, oh yeah, we're very much mixed in this society. We're very much mixed. That's why we have to know what generation we're on, because we're going from the fourth generation to the fifth generation. So being genetically bred out, we have to mix with our own people as much as we possibly can. And we cannot worry about what's inside of me. I'm not worried about a person that's identifying themselves as mixed, because that's a person sitting on the fence. Because if a person really studied black genetics, you would know one drop of black blood makes you who you are. You know, that's why I have this conversation with a lot of our people where they're like, well, I'm not sure where I stand. I'm sure you don't, but they'll let you know where you stand very easily. And you're going to have a chance to say, well, I don't know if I want to claim this. I don't know if I want to claim that. And this time you can't say you don't know. You have to already know or he'll make that decision for you. And so we have to get to a point where we only are learning to deal with each other. See, we think that we've integrated. Only thing we did was be able to buy from white people, right? Or integrate with white people in terms of being in their relationships. And so that was a plan because they wanted to mix in with us to take our genetics away from who we are. And if we're learning that was the plan, then we'll have a little less compassion for them. So the problem is we're naturally compassionate people. And if we're naturally compassionate people, then what happens is we get caught up trying to feel sorry for people that's not feeling sorry for us. Because the next thing you know, more and more people of younger ages is going to get taken away. And we'll keep worrying about, well, I feel sorry for that person. It's not even about that anymore. And I understand people's perception. I can't tell a person how to think, but at the same time, we just have to have the right ideas, and it's all about ideas and implementing those ideas so that we can be able to save ourselves, because every other race is saving themselves. Again, a black person cannot build in any other neighborhood and expect it to flourish. They will tear you down. They know who you are. The problem is we keep trying to be accepted by everybody else. Acceptance is not going to work anymore. We just have to have a plan, ideas. From the ideas, we have a codification process, and we're able to implement the codification process. And once that is put in place, we're not even worried about what white people are doing. When I say I'm anti-white, I'm saying that to a degree that's saying, look, I'm not worried about trying to find a way to get them to fit in. I don't want them to fit in with us because they don't want to fit in with us. If they did, they wouldn't be killing us at rapid rates. In the year 2015, we've lost over 1,100 black people due to white violence, white on black violence. But we're still trying to figure out how we're going to make this work. And they're letting you know this is not going to work. It never worked. The Civil Rights Bill that was passed was a misconception to buy time because it never worked. And again, it's not about hating anybody. It's about creating your own process and your own system that makes you and your people successful so that we no longer are feeding off of them so that they can sit there and say, okay, well, look, if we're your enemy, why are you still coming to us for everything that you need? Not going to work anymore. So, no, and this is not here. I'm not here to be inflammatory or anything like that, but that's reality because we have to be ready to be able to be responsible and depend solely on ourselves. Hopefully that answers two of your questions.
Okay, MJ, if you're still listening, I hope you answered your question or questions and your comments and your thought process and everything that you had going on.
She still there?
Hold on. MJ.
Yes, I'm still here, Brother Knowledge. You're going to mute me and then try to do me, and I can't even say anything. But yes, you did answer.
I wanted to make sure my brother got a chance to answer your question because it was
you did. He did. You did answer both of my questions, and I'm glad you let me know what you meant when you said the anti-white thing. Like I'm all for that. Like since you broke it down like that, like okay, it makes perfect sense. But I've been around a lot of people with hatred, you know what I'm saying? Like just pure outright hatred. Like let's just go get some guns and shoot up all the white people and see a cracker kill a cracker. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, hey, I can't knock what anybody's feeling, you know, but I can only let myself be a part of things that resonate with me. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, for you to break down what you meant when you said the anti-white, then, okay, I'm on the porch with you with that because that's what I mean when I say I feel sorry for him. Like, I don't feel sorry for him like I want to go get him by the hand and, you know, go skip in a park or nothing. But I feel sorry for him like, damn, y'all go through a whole lot to keep people down, you know. How about we going to focus on us, you know, and I really don't have any feelings. Besides the, you know, I know y'all got some things going on inside y'all brain. Other than that, I don't have any. I mean, for real, other than that, I don't have anything for them. You know, at first it was like, well, we can all get along. But I have learned, like, no, we can't, because when it's all said and done, like I lived in Mississippi whenever Barack was his first term. And the class, this one particular day, I was in a criminal justice corrections class or whatever, and my instructor, he said, okay, well, we going to vote. And on this particular day, it happened to be 12 of us in a class. And I kid y'all not, it was 12 white people and 12 black people. So he's like, okay, we're going to do an anonymous vote, you know, pick who y'all voting for. So, and it's like all these white people were cool. You know, we all cool with each other. We interact all day, every day. But then whenever he started taking the ballots out of the hat, it was 12 for the white candidate and 12 for Barack, you know. So he started asking everybody, who did you vote for? Who did you vote for? And lo and behold, a lot of, you know, it was how I said, we voted for Barack, they voted for whoever the candidate was at the time. So he started asking questions, you know, and half of them only voted for the white guy because he was white, you know what I'm saying? And me, more or less, I'm going to be honest with y'all, the only reason I voted for Barack was because Hillary dropped out, you know. So at the time, I mean, I'm just being honest. That's why I voted for Barack. So I'm like, okay, I don't see myself, I don't resonate with any of these other people. So yeah, I'm gonna vote for the brother now, you know, because the person that I did resonate with, she's not in it anymore. But for the most part, all the white people, they voted for the white person. And I started thinking, and I started looking at everything from that point forward, like, okay, they cool with us until some real stuff start happening. Then that's when you see, like, you know, they start saying things like, oh, I love black people. I have 3 black friends. And it's like, how you know you got 3 black friends? You know, like, how do you know you have 3? So you keep counting on them, like, I'm not going over 5 of them. That's too much, you know. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, they're cordial with us, but they do not necessarily like us. That's 2 different things, you know. So that's when I started becoming aware of that, just being down in Mississippi. And I started noticing how, like, you know, they still have lynching and things going on. The girls would interact with our guys and vice versa. But those grandparents and great-grands, they still do not like it, you know. Like, they don't like it. I don't care how much time passes. They still look at us with disgust. It's like they want to beat with us, and they you know, the goods with us, but just to sit down and look at us like civilized people, that's never going to happen, you know. And I'm okay with that. So with that being said, I'm like, okay, well, how about we just adopt that same mentality that they have, you know, and we just stick with our people. So yeah, I'm all for the anti-white, since you say it like that. And yeah, you did answer my questions, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, though, just to add to that in terms of even voting at this, we got to start learning from our mistakes. I don't tell people what and what not to do, but just for me, I got involved in voting. I voted twice for Barack Obama because, of course, you want to do the black vote. You think, okay, yeah, he's going to change. It's like, okay, but when I say learn from our mistakes, we have to look at everything that's went on, that they implemented a black president in a time where when they wanted to come in and start exterminating us as a people. And it's like the one thing that basically put everything in perspective that I feel for everybody was when the Baltimore situation happened, and literally Baltimore is 40 miles outside of D.C., and rather than you come, even if he would have came and a helicoptered his way there, you see this as a situation of an uprising from oppression. You see it as just thugs doing what thugs do, and that made me look at him as, oh, he's just a worker for the Zionist movement. Let's just look at it for what it is, and instead of us just worrying about, okay, well, look, who going. First of all, it doesn't matter who runs. At the end of the day, they're still connected to the same family. And we should already know that if we're people of right knowledge, because that's one of the 5 Ps is politics. Because all of that is still a branch of a connection to the Zionist movement. And one of the main people that I'm studying now is Steve Coakley. He's one of the main people to open the door to show blacks that there is a buffer class between us and them. And that buffer class was who? That was the Boule Society that Bill Cosby's a part of. And it's crazy because right now I would say to me, I always will connect myself to black regardless of the situation. I could care less. I'm not going to throw this man under the bus with whites. That would look real crazy to me to do that. So when I see blacks doing that, I just shake my head. I'm like, look, he's a person of the Boule. He felt the need to appease his white people for a period of time, and they still demonized him at the end of the day. They've done that to every black leader and every black person that was there for us. They decided to castrate him sexually. They've done that to us years, so we have to, that's why I said, learning from our mistakes and being able to pinpoint when they're doing that to us. So as long as we're learning, like, look, okay, if we're responsible for ourselves, what would be the use of voting at this point? Who would you be voting for? You going to vote for Trump? You going to vote for Hillary? It's like, man, we even voting for Hillary, we're voting for a woman that, along with Bill Clinton, put in the 3-strike rule that sent a lot of our people 30 to 50 years in prison for petty drug crimes. So, and she has a feminist ideology that for white feminists, they wanted to exterminate black people. They wanted to exterminate the wombs of our women. To even want to side with a woman like this is really crazy, because that's the thing with us, is that we have to start studying these crackers that's around us. These people do not mean us any good anymore. They never have and never will. So once we learn that, then we can truly be responsible for ourselves. And also wanted to plug in to you, sister, that I actually have a class that I teach on Saturdays in off of Griggs and MLK in Houston, Texas, in case you want to stop by sometime as well.
Of course I would.
Okay.
Because I'm right here, 45 North. So
okay.
What's the physical address? I would love to attend.
It's off of 5260 Griggs.
5260 Griggs.
Yeah, that's in Young Library.
Young Library. I'm not real familiar with the South, but Google is amazing. It's good for a lot of different things. 5260 Griggs. Okay, and as far as I don't deal with the whole politics or anything anymore. That was back in 2007. My awakening started in 2012, so it's fairly new. Yeah, it's fairly new, but I've been diving real deep or whatever. But I still have always felt like certain things just, they just didn't feel right. Even before I was completely awakened. I would question certain things. I really tell you the truth, that was my first time voting.
Right.
And when Barack ran for president, that was literally my first time ever voting. Because honestly, I never understood what the system was doing for us. Because for one, they call us African Americans, and that's like two continents put together, don't exist. So you know what I'm saying? And then, we call ourselves black, and then it's like a color. So that didn't really go with the whole law and stuff like that either. So it's a lot of things I really just didn't dabble in. And then I have a felony. Like, I got in trouble whenever I was 18. So a lot of things I just didn't really qualify for. So, 2000, I think it was 8 whenever Barack ran. So that was my first time just actually going to the polls and seeing what it was about. And it was crazy, too, because I saw, like 100-year-old white people out there voting, It was like, and I saw the same thing with our people. Like, it was like people on canes and with their oxygen machines, like, getting to the poll. Like, I got to make it. We got a black man running. And I was just thinking, like, man, it's crazy. Like, the world is crazy. Like, they really think that it's going to make a difference, And I never really saw the point in it. But, 5260 Griggs. I would definitely be attending that class.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. On Saturdays, every Saturday at 2 o'clock.
Awesome. Because that's part of what I want to do. Like you said, it's for the sisters. That's what I'm trying to do. Like, start a sisterhood, because we don't have enough of that. Like, I always say guys have, like, a little male G code, And I use the term G code loosely, but y'all don't have to know each other, and y'all can make like a little eye contact, and it's all good. But women, we're not like that. We get kind of catty with each other. So yeah, I need to come get with you so I can eat your brain for a little while and take some stuff back to my sisters. So thank you for that.
Oh, it's no problem, sister. No problem.
Cool. Peace, y'all.
All right, peace.
See that connection right there? That's that H sound. So if you're in the H, go to the library. I know black people don't go to the library no more. But you get the opportunity to go back to the library and get to study on with Brother Ali York. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, there's no more callers. So I give you an opportunity to close out. I want to definitely thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. You got everything that you got going on. Give some final thoughts to the family, and also if people looking to book you for speaking engagements or anything like that, give them a way to contact you.
Okay, cool. People, let's let them know that my Facebook also just go on to Ali York, and I should come up. Also, you can inbox me through Ali York. My Twitter is also Ali York 999. On YouTube, I have a YouTube page that's Ali York as well. You just put Ali York in, and that should come right up. Also at Instagram, it's still Ali _York 9. That's also my Instagram. And any type of any type of inbox and DM, however you want to do it, you can contact me through that, of course, as well. The conference call classes is every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Houston time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, like New York or Philly or Atlanta time, and that number is 641-715-3272. Passcode is 706-344#, and my personal number, you can hit me as well, no problem with that, is 832-276-1822. And that's my contact information. Anything that you need to also, even if I may have talked too fast or whatever, they can still call me, and they can still get that information from me again if they so choose to. And so I'm always available for speaking engagements. Also in the future, here in 2016, I'll be working with Michael Clark and Ali Muhammad here in Houston for more lectures. Here in Houston, they usually work with the Shrine of Black Madonna. They've had people here from Dick Gregory to Professor Griff to Umar Johnson to Shahrazad Ali here, and under Ali Muhammad and Michael Clark Duncan Productions, I'll be working with them doing lectures as well. So anyway, regardless, again, and also, again, just to give my personal information one more time, my phone number is 832-276-1822, 832-276-1822.
It's an honor and a privilege taking us back down memory lane. Like I spoke with you before, my birth is connected to the work of your father. He taught my mother and my father, and I was born out of that union. So it's amazing how things come full circle. Back in the fifth cycle of the 7-year cycle. You know what I'm saying? To be coming back to this day and time, man. It's a beautiful thing. So it's an honor and a privilege. And anything you ever got going on that you need to promote, or you want to come back again, do like a part 2 or whatever, you can always reach out to me. You know what I'm saying? And we'll love to have you back on.
Okay, definitely. And I also wanted to know how do I go about downloading this show?
Okay, you could go to the archives, and this is for everybody who's listening. You could go to www.blogtalkradio.com/Do the Knowledge Radio, and you'll see this episode. This is episode 44 with Ali York. It'll be up as soon as Blog Talk allows it to post. I would say wait until my brother has an opportunity to get his intellectual property. Also, you could once he downloads it, I'm pretty sure he'll have it up on his page. So go to his YouTube page and subscribe. You can subscribe here, and also this this will be on our website at www.studoknowledgeradio.com as well in a couple of days. And also we have Student Knowledge TV on YouTube. And you can follow the show on Twitter. That is at KnowledgeBorn15. Again, that's at KnowledgeBorn15. And if you go to www.studoknowledgeradio.com in the Contact Us section, my information is there. So, let the brother get the opportunity to get his intellectual property first, and then I'll post it on Facebook after.
Okay. No problem. Thank you very much for your time for allowing me on here as well, brother.
Hey, you're one of my heroes, man. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I'm trying to grow up to be like you, man, handling it like you doing it.
Hey, man, you got a pops out of this world, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Changed a lot of lives from a whole lot of people, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
Now it's time to try to walk. I don't know if we could fit them shoes together, but, you know what I'm saying, all of us collectively, if we come together, maybe we could fit halfway in the shoe and continue in that work, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, got some colossal size, man. Colossal.
Right. Free out my crew, man. Free out my crew.
Yeah, exactly. Free Dr. York, man, always. Always.
All right, my brother.
All right now. Black Power family, hotel.
Black Power, Wadu.
Wadu.
All right, family, don't forget, tomorrow we got the Black Love and Communication Series with Dr. Queen T. Make sure you call in. We're going to be dealing with a couple of different things. She spoke about it earlier. Tuesday we had Student Knowledge Think Tank. Wednesday we got King Samir. Thursday Student Knowledge Think Tank. And Friday we'll have something going on. Don't forget we on 7 days a week now. Different times. Just check the Facebook. Look out for the Facebook events. Thank you for everybody who called in. Thanks to my sister MJ for keeping us on our toes and showing us that love. Thanks for Dr. Queen T for coming and showing us that support. Don't forget the archives check the archives and subscribe to the show. If you got a question, you got a comment, you got a show idea, email me at www.studoknowledgeradio.com. If you want to be a guest, use the same email or the Twitter or inbox me on Facebook. We're going to go out with Badu. With that, I say peace and Black Power.